Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Thursday, December the 11th, 2025, and today we are talking about planting late fall strawberries, testing the soil for proper moisture, and we take on a very fun, very specific farming challenge. So let's do it. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and that your Decembers are behaving, or at least being a little bit have. We are expecting more snow this evening, which is, December usually has some cold and maybe a little snow, but typically it's just brown, muddy, and cover croppy out here. This year it's trying to do something new. I'm fine with it, just taking me a little off guard and limiting my work quite a bit. Though yesterday I did get a little more papa corn cleaned. The kids have been burning through it, which I love. I love that they love something we grow as much as they love the popcorn. They love other stuff like carrots, but the popcorn, their name, not mine, chips off the old block, as they say, is a smash hit with them. It was, in fact, the popcorn from the Milpa trial, and it had, we had a really dry year while that was growing, but the popcorn still turned out really good, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's a little small, maybe, but it's still quite good. Planning to do another one of those patches next year just to kind of keep that trial going. I'll be honest, I haven't really settled into crop planting yet, though, so we'll see how that goes. That's the plan for next week, though. Looking at the weather, I think we'll be safe on finding some time because it won't get above freezing for a little while. As always, before we jump in, please keep sending your 20-second farm video clips, especially those winter gardens and or your spring gardens down there in the southern hemisphere, to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com. Been some really great ones lately. Very cool to see what people are up to. All right, so as is tradition on Thursdays, we are going to take 3 Patreon questions today to continue our endeavor to get caught up over there as best we can. Our first question of the day comes to us from Patreon member Lee Guustavv, who writes, quote, "Hey Jesse, strawberries came Tuesday, 3 weeks later than expected. Got them in the ground Wednesday and mulched with straw. 25-degree nights coming Monday, 5 days after planting. First hard frost here in North Carolina, zone 7B. Will mulch be enough to protect these babies till they get established, or should I put row covers with frost protection for a couple of weeks as well? Thanks for being awesome," end quote. Thank you for being awesome, Lee. And I did answer this when it came in because it was actually from several weeks back, but I have a story about this for ourselves. A few years back, I ordered a ton of strawberry plants to be planted in the fall that I was just going to put them in the ground in the field in like late October. And unfortunately, life happened. We got COVID and I just could not get around to planting them as early as I intended. So we ended up planting them in mid or late November, and well, it didn't go super well. They almost all perished in the cold. They simply did not have the time to establish their roots that they needed. I think we lost something like 70% of them because I also did not have the time to protect them from the cold because we went on vacation the following week. So if you are planting a fall strawberry but late, then based solely on that experience, I'm going to recommend that you cover them. In fact, I have a bunch of strawberries right now that need to go out that are just sitting in a tunnel, but I'm going to wait through this next cold snap. They are snug in the tunnel, and then plant them after that with a nice layer of row cover. Even then, I'm not 100% that it will be worth it, but that's what I do here mostly. I learn. If you don't have any sort of row cover or something convenient to cover them with, you could add a little mulch over top of them and then rake it aside later. But obviously, the row cover is going to be a little easier to manage over time. Now, according to some research out of Arkansas, planting late with strawberries may also result in fewer flowers, simply because the crown development is just not quite adequate for the cold and the sunlight. Too early, though, and the strawberries can start producing runners instead of establishing their crowns. So anyway, it is possible. It will likely succeed. It's just a matter of protecting them and then maybe expecting slightly less production in the spring, at least in year 1, assuming you are going, 2 years or so with them. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Let me know your experiences planting fall strawberries, late, early, or otherwise. For now, though, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll tackle a fun farm-specific challenge together. Love those. BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand say they grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand is your business coach and assistant, helping to sell out, save time, and grow smarter with real data from real farms, shaping websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that run smoothly. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/no-till and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. Today's episode is also brought to you by FarmRaise. Still struggling with your balance sheet? Your lender's asking for a balance sheet and you're stuck with a spreadsheet mess or guessing your numbers? FarmRaise Tracks takes the stress out of farm finance. With one click, you can generate an accurate, up-to-date balance sheet that shows your assets, liabilities, and equity. No accounting degree required. You'll be ready for loan applications, tax season, or just a clearer picture of where your farm stands. Join thousands of farmers using Tracks to build stronger businesses. Get 20% off with code NOTIL20 at farmraise.com for the lifetime of your membership. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere the questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's second Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Fred, who writes, quote, "We have been granted a grant from a nonprofit for farming in harmony with wildlife, and they would like to install some ponds and water catchment features, which we are all for, but we need to figure out how to plan our blocks around them. It also means we will have to bump some of our production to the neighboring field, which has been a hay field for decades. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed trying to figure out how to smother the grass and get those new areas into production for spring, given that we're now getting record rainfall. The ground is too wet to do anything with, and there are some perennial weeds to deal with in that field. My plan has been to mow it low and smother with hay that was cut from the field earlier this year and left out to start rotting, which it has, but I don't know if that will work over winter months and if it's rotted enough to kill weed seeds in it. We do also have some tarps. My partner wants to just get into it with the BCS when it's dry enough and deal with the weeds later, but we tried that earlier this year and weeds were overwhelming, especially the grass. I would be in favor of cutting back our planned production for next year, but we can't if we want to maintain our farm-specific benefits, insurances, pension, etc. These are through a nonprofit org. My other idea is to meet the minimum cultivated area we are required to have by planting no-dig, lasagna mulch style potatoes directly on top of grass, then cover with hay, and not worry about their yield. We tried some potatoes this way earlier this year and it worked surprisingly okay. The rules are that we need a minimum surface area under cultivation, but no minimum yield. Different activities account for different surface areas, so the hay field doesn't count and we can't just throw a few sheep on back acres to meet the requirements. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but those are the rules." End quote. All right, so that was a lot there, but thanks for this, and it's an incredibly interesting conundrum here. Basically, they have to cultivate a certain amount of space. It is not yet ready, but it doesn't have to really be that effective next year in its first year of growth. It just has to be an attempt. So if they could do that, if they could get something growing, this would give them time to get the garden set up properly and still maintain their benefits. And as I told them before, because they put an alarm bell on this one, I think either of the mulching ideas they presented there could work, though I should add that the hay will almost certainly still have some weed seeds in it, and as it rots, you will get less of it. So you're going to need like double the amount of hay if it rots a lot, right? Because it's just losing its mass. Tarping is going to not really be super effective over the winter, almost anywhere that it is even a vague winter. The BCS option, assuming you mean plowing, shaping beds, etc., would be fine too, but like you said, you'd be battling the weeds, especially grasses, which like to come back. If you do get a dry spell though, and can work the soil and then tarp it until the spring, maybe that followed by like a late potato crop, that could be one place to start. That way the beds are mostly prepped and ready to plant in the spring in the way they may not be if you just, mulched right over the top. Or if dry enough, you could simply use the BCS, then mulch, and then plant early in the spring. Like I said, the lasagna idea is also an option if it's an option for you. And like you said, it worked okay for you before, and you're not super concerned with the yields. That way, maybe just a nice large potato crop plus some family veg will meet your minimum requirement and keep something growing there while you get set up for better production the following year. The mulch would have to be quite thick, but it's possible. I don't think there is necessarily a wrong answer here. I do think keeping it simple is the best idea for your own, sanity, but also so you can get it prepped for better production. Like I often say, if you can take a year to really get a garden space started, that is absolutely ideal. I don't know the setup with this nonprofit, but I do love that they are helping you all in the way that they are. Like a pension, that's amazing. Ideally, a year to get set up would be built into that contract, but I mean, it's cool nonetheless. Either way, please do report back as to what you did and how it went. Thank you, and let us know, listeners, what you all think about this particular conundrum. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we will get to that question of how to know if your soil is too wet to work. Be right back.
Hey, Farmer Jesse. So we've just been out harvesting the last of our crop, the last of the carrots and the beets. As you can see, there's a bit of snow on the ground out there. Just washing them up. We did find some that were planted a little later than the rest, so we're going to leave those in the ground over winter and see what happens.
Today's episode is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. All right, back to the show. All right, I owe a little bit of an apology to our third and final Patreon member because I completely did not see this question when it came in. Patreon literally hid it from me, and I don't know why, but if I ever go over a month, or let's say like a month and a half without addressing your particular Patreon question, or if I ever do not answer your alarm bell on Patreon, just DM me there at patreon.com/no-till-growers, and I'll get to it. It's a very helpful site, Patreon, but it's not perfect. Anyway, Kate Maudsley at Leroyd Street had asked, quote, "Hey Jesse, we finally had some very long overdue spring rain here at Leroyd Street in southeast Queensland, I'm assuming Australia. Heat zone 7, cold zone 9B. I've been waiting for rain to soften the ground so I can trench in some polypipe. Thought today would be the day, but the soil is very wet now, so I'm worried about compaction as I'll be using a compact tractor. How do you decide when is the best time to do this sort of work while causing as little damage to the soil? Is there a squeeze test or something? I've got to get the pipe in so I can mow before the road's grass seeds in my bed," end quote. All right, so this is a great question, an important question for anyone wanting to work soil soon or early in the spring, and maybe even for our last grower who is having to figure out a way to get into that soil. So you could buy a soil moisture tester and all that good stuff, and I'm not going to stop you there, but I do not use one myself, never have, and I've used the same method for a decade and a half to good effect. Basically, the depth that you want to plow or work the soil, or in this case, get some, lines laid down, should be crumbly in between your fingers. What I mean is that you can take a sample from that depth using a trowel or shovel, pinch a little bit between your fingers, and rub it in one direction. If the soil slicks, meaning looks smooth when you rub it, not crumbly, I mean, maybe think like smooth like pottery or something, then it's probably too wet. If it crumbles apart, then it's just right. If it feels too dry and powdery, then it's probably too dry, and plowing at that point is likely to lose soil or just be really clumpy. One thing I think it would be helpful to mention here is moisture level. So this is just soil at about the depth that we're going to be plowing it. And what you want is you want soil that sort of crumbles. Like if it does too much slicking like that, it's too wet. But if you get, if it crumbles like this, that's like perfect. That's exactly the temperature, because if it's too dry, it's really hard to do. But if it's too wet, it'll slick and you'll create compaction. Like if you're trying to decompact a soil, you don't want to do it too wet because it will actually add compaction. A little wormy in there. So you really you want it to kind of crumble, but still feel wet, like not slick. But even that feels pretty good. Plowing when it's too wet is going to create compaction issues, which is the primary tillage damage that the commenter is talking about here. Bad compaction from a tiller can take a decade or more to remedy with hard work. So this does have to be taken pretty seriously. Now, if the soil is too wet, consider broad forking to open it up. Literally fork it and leave the chunks that you forked up and open to the elements. That will help it to dry out faster, especially if it does not rain. If you have clay, just get as close as you can to that point of crumbliness without letting it turn into a rock. Clay kind of just goes from wet to dry pretty fast. It's just like it just wants to be pottery or concrete. So you kind of want to find that sweet spot. It isn't as easy with clay. And when you till it, make sure to make it worth that work. Add the requisite compost and amendments so that any damage you may do is getting compensated to some extent with those nutrients and those microbe homes and all those things. Now, I cannot guarantee it will dry out enough for you in time to get that pipe in. Sometimes the soil just does not do what you want it to do in the time that you want it to do it. That's just the nature of farming, I guess. We have to be adaptable, but using tricks like broad forking can, at very least, help spread things along in the wetter years. So like a few years ago, we were opening up a plot of ground for our, what would be like some of our slow rotation stuff. The first thing I did was I went through and I dug a few holes down through that plot, and I checked the soil just for that texture. And I remember one week that I went to check it, it wasn't quite there, so I had to wait another week. And then when I came back, it was fine. All the soil was in the right places. So we plowed it like we always do with the BCS. Then we shaped our beds, and then we tarped it for, I think at that time it was probably like May or June. And we threw a tarp over top of that for 2 or 3 weeks, and then pulled that back and cover cropped it and then planted it. And then from there, I think we went straight into garlic, I believe. Don't 100% remember if that was the first major crop that we put in there, but I kind of think it was. Anyway, that in terms of like how we would do it is I make sure to check a bunch of spots in that area, because sometimes you have lower lying spots that can stay wetter than others. So you do kind of have to get a good feel for everything there. Anyway, I hope there was something helpful in there, as I hope every segment has something helpful. Otherwise, I think we're done here for this Thursday. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes. Mike will put a little link, and you just click on the link, and then the link will tell you all the things. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Let that jam roll for a second. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you sign up in the month of December, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to unfortunately, we didn't get any new signups today. That's okay. It's actually been a really good run. So anyway, we'll have to wait to hear the fate of Sleeves and his gardening endeavors in New York City with Tower Paul tomorrow. I can't wait. I think I have to, but I can't. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you then.